we're back with Chicago Footy Fan TV, and today we're here at Graystone Tavern in Lakeview, Chicago, home of the Chelsea Chicago Supporters Club. And I'm here with Karl, straight from London, and we witnessed Chelsea take the loss at home at Stamford Bridge to Brighton over Albion 3-1. So I just want to get your reaction to the result, the loss 3-1. How are you feeling after the result? After the result, obviously getting the red card, and just give me your post-match feelings.
Yeah, so obviously it was a devastating loss, to be honest with you. Like, teams like Brighton, we should be beating 100%. However, it was a bit of an unlucky red card, I would say, with Trevor Chalobah. I mean, obviously he was the last man before the goal-scoring opportunity. However, I feel it was slightly unfair, in my opinion. But I can see why they gave it at the same time. I think overall, this season we're looking at much of the way. It's a bit tricky because I don't know. I feel like we should be winning these games against Brighton, against Brentford, for example, as well. And we're definitely not in a position where we want to be. And at this point now, we're about 3-4 years into Todd Bowley's system, into his ownership, and it's not exactly what we wanted. Definitely not. I think obviously it takes a little bit of time for chemistry to come into a football team. However, I feel as though the time's already passed where we would have seen the chemistry work. And so continuously spending a lot of money on players with very long contracts to evade the FPL rules when it comes to buying with financial fair play is massively a detriment to Chelsea right now. And I mean, it's a big shame to lose a game like this. There were maybe a few positives to take from some individual performances. I think, say for example, João Pedro once again proving that he is settling into the squad quickly and doing some fantastic work. But I mean, Enzo Fernandez I felt was a little bit lacking. And I'd say all round a bit of a bad day for Chelsea.
Okay, so on that note, I want to talk a bit about, the Chelsea board and their transfer strategy. Obviously, you guys have more been going for spending on younger players and kind of maybe getting some resale value. Do you agree with your board strategy right now in terms of targeting more younger players, or do you feel like more experience is needed in the Chelsea squad?
So I feel like it's always your best opportunity to try and buy young players. Always a really, really good strategy. However, when you've been doing so for so long, you all of a sudden create a team that has zero experience at all levels. And so now we've got probably our most experienced player is Cole Palmer. And maybe Reece James, but like Cole Palmer, who isn't very experienced when it comes to big games. I mean, so I feel as though our strategy is very much from a financial basis as opposed to an actual football basis. So you've got, as I said, Cole Palmer comes in. He's on an 8-year contract. You've got João Pedro. You've got Esteval. You've got all of these players coming in. Fantastic prospects. But they're on 8-year contracts, which is unheard of in the league. Absolutely unheard of. And the problem with that is that it creates an environment where players are going to get used to the fact that it doesn't matter if we're inexperienced. Yeah. It's a case of they're going to be like, well, I'm here for 8 years and I'm going to make like 5 million quid. Where's the issue? And it doesn't create a culture of winning. It doesn't create a culture of the club. And, it's something where I've been sat back for maybe about 3 seasons now saying, well, let's trust in this because maybe it's a good idea having players on that long contract for 8 years because they can eventually grow into a team and have that teamwork. But that isn't gelling yet. And the chemistry's not there. And it doesn't matter if you spend £5 billion. It doesn't matter how much you spend. If the team's not going to gel with the team, it's not going to work. And I thought we were really close because we had Madueke and Cole Palmer that we were incredible. And now Madueke's gone to Arsenal, and you can see what he's doing at Arsenal. He's absolutely killing it. And he's about 5 games in. I mean, I find it ridiculous that we got rid of Madueke. I find it ridiculous what we're doing with that strategy. We need to start from the absolute basics, the foundations, right? We need to make sure that we've got an actual culture of the club where you come in and these are our core values, our beliefs, our morals, and then we can start to build on that as opposed to, well, I've heard that player is kind of good. Let's sign him for 8 years for 2 million, for however many millions. I don't think this strategy is working. And it's been, what, 5 years now? And we're getting away with it purely because, I mean, Roman Abramovich was Russian, so we're like, oh well, at least the Americans are handling it, not the Russians, and that's what we're getting away with. But we're not seeing any progression. It's just going to be inconsistency after inconsistency in the team until we solidify the actual club, in my opinion.
Right. No, I think you made some fair points there. So I also wanted to ask you about Enzo Maresca. He's gotten a lot of ridicule the last game against Man United when you guys went down to 10 men. His substitutions came into question. I don't think he made the same mistake today, but in general, are you a believer in Enzo Maresca? Do you believe in the style of play he's put out there and his game plan? Like, talk to me about your gaffer right now.
Yeah, so I reckon, tactically, I think he's a brilliant man. I genuinely believe that he probably is the right person for the club at a certain point in time. However, it's going to be inordinately difficult for him to be able to work in a team in the squad size that we have. So obviously in NFL, there's a very large squad, right? You guys have a bunch of large squads, and that makes perfect sense. In soccer, that is very different. And you have to have at least maybe about 15 players that gel really well, and some you can put in at other points. Right. But I do not believe currently that with a squad of maybe 55 players or something in soccer, that I can't see how you can get everyone invested into the culture that much. I mean, I dread to think at Cobham what the first team training looks like, because it must be insane to try and get involved when there are so many players. It must be very difficult. So I think what generally they're going for overall is to have such a large squad that you can say, oh, well, because we've got such a large squad, it doesn't matter who's injured. We could injure our whole first team and the whole second team because you've got reserves. But in reality, you don't see any other club doing that, and you haven't seen any other club doing that for the past 130 years, and for very good reason. Is because I don't believe that works. I believe that you need to invest heavily into a squad of around about 22, and when you have that squad down and gelled in with the chemistry, you're going to see a large difference. So Maresca himself, I don't believe it's his fault. I believe that he is forced to work in a way that he's not used to, and it's because, I dare say, because of our ownership's opinions on how we should be creating our squads and what our squad should look like. I mean, financially, it's fantastic. If I was talking strictly business, I mean, we're bringing in players and selling them off. We're making money. But football, soccer, is not about making money. It's about winning games. It's about winning the team over. It's about having that team chemistry, and it's something that we don't have. So I don't blame Maresca. I would say that's more on Bowley, unfortunately.
That's fair. And my last question here to close out, I kind of think I know the answer to the question already, but tell me, is Chelsea this season in the Premier League in a top 4 race or a title race?
I mean, obviously, I would love to say title race. Right. I would love to. However, when you look at your competition, when you look at how together Liverpool are absolutely, potentially the most solid team I've ever seen in my life, ever. I don't think, even if you're talking about the class of 92 at Man United, I think Liverpool right now are so solid. I think they probably are above the 92 of Man United. So Man City, again, have just so much potential threat, it's impossible to ignore. Right. Arsenal have a really good vibe, have a really good thing going on, and they are very solid. And there is that 4th spot that is potentially up for grabs, potentially. And I'd love for us to do it. However, what I saw today, Brighton coming to us, they have no right to be taking 3 points that easily against us. Once again, a silly red card. Much like with the Robert Sanchez red card, I mean, we are losing our heads and making these mistakes because the squad's too big, because there's no culture at its core. So I would love to say we're title contenders. However, this season we're going to have to mark it up as a maybe next time. We got to fight for Champions League. We got to fight for that fourth spot, and I think, yeah, I'm not going to be upset if we don't win the league. Let's put it that way. Like, we still need to build on it.
Right.
Let's put it that way. So.